So that gave me a lot of encourage and inspirations. And after I interviewed some animators, I feel this area is very interesting, and artistic works very attractive. So, and then at that meantime, I translated some subtitles for Canadian animation. That seems so different with Chinese animation. So that opened a window for me.
Mm-hmm.
Then later I got chance because the Canadian government support Asian country scholars research Canadian culture. So they supplies some scholarships, provided scholarships for Chinese scholars research the Canadian culture. So I applied it. Then I won a scholarship. Went to Canada for 5 weeks to research Canadian animation history, production, situation, something like that. Then I wrote an article published in China, the World Cinema Journal. Then I wrote to him. I said, "Thank you very much. You gave me the inspiration. Now I went to Canada, got further research." So he congratulated me. Then later I received an invitation from his organization, the Asian Cinema Studies Society. They held the conference at Oklahoma University. So I met him again, and this time I just really feel good because he was the only one I knew in that conference.
So you married me.
Yeah.
Right.
So later I think, oh, this man's good.
So when you asked for a subscription to the Asia, when you wanted to become a member of the Asian Film Society, you didn't know how far that would.
Right.
No, I have no idea.
That one day you would be actually involved with putting out the journal.
Yeah, I have no idea. Never dreamed of it even. Yeah, just developed very naturally. And yeah, I just think to be with him is very happy. The way you can learn a lot, and he introduced me to many important people, and traveling a lot, Malaysia, Singapore, all the other countries, and yeah, just opened my eyes. So enjoy.
I was going to ask for the membership, but I think I'll hold off for
Yeah,
now.
right. Because you'll be working next week. If you, yeah, right.
So, Dr. Lent, you remember you inaugurated this book
Yes.
in September 2007. So here are a few copies
Well,
for you.
thank you. Thank you. So one for me, and then what? Sell 4 of them on eBay, right? Thank you very much.
Oh,
I
you are
appreciate
welcome.
it. Cause
You are
You
welcome.
want him to sign for you?
sure, of
Yeah,
course, you'll
yeah,
sign it.
I'll sign that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is.
And I'm so happy that you and Mrs. Lent, you were there for the occasion.
Right.
Yeah.
And I am so honored
we
that you
were
were
honored.
It's
It was a very nice, very nice occasion, and I think the book's important because this is what we're trying to do in Comic Art Scholarship, and that is to start bringing some of the cartoonists who have been put in obscurity, bring them out of that obscurity, and let people know that there are Marathi cartoonists, and not just one or two, but a whole book full of them, and the same in other parts of the world. That a lot of these people just worked in isolation, worked without much recognition, except in their own regions, etc. And so you've done a great job by making this available.
Yeah, thanks for you accepted my invitation. Actually, when I started the plan to have a compilation book, I just have one name in front of my mind, and that's you. That you are going to inaugurate it. So that was a
Good.
great thing. One very important factor in this book is I have written about inspiration, which I got from the great cartoonist from India, R.K. Lakshman.
Right.
And it happens that Mr. Lakshman was here.
He sat on this, well, not this, the old couch. He was sitting here, sure.
Yeah. So
He was here in I don't know how many times, but the time I met him was in 1987.
Mhm.
And he was invited to a political cartoon symposium here in Philadelphia.
Mhm.
And he came, and I talked with him for a while, and he told me that he'd like to see the city, and I had an old beat-up Volkswagen Beetle. And so I said, well, I'll show you around. So I drove him around all types, the good areas, the bad areas. I gave him an idea of the city, and then we came back here, and we spent a day together, basically. And it was very enjoyable, because, just getting his insights on what he was seeing here in Philadelphia was good. And then I also have interviewed him in his office in Bombay.
in Times of India.
Right.
And also he has given one of his original cartoons also, which I saw somewhere around here.
No, he's one of the very few.
Who
He's
did
the
not.
only one who charged me for it.
Oh, he did?
Yeah, right.
Now that's an interesting
Lakshman
story.
does not give anything away.
For free, does it?
No. That's the one I paid for. But it was worth it. It was an you asked about anecdotes earlier, and when I was in his office that day, I was with the cartoonist Sawish Sawant, and Lakshman was apparently trying to impress us about how great he was at killing flies. And he had a fly swatter there, and he was going around and swatting flies the whole time. It was very disconcerting. We're trying to carry on a conversation. He'd be, swatting the fly, and then he would tell us the proper way to kill flies, etc. So, it's a little out of the norm. But I also was in the home of Abu Abraham, and I liked Abraham. Abu was a very, very nice man.
He was a great cartoonist.
Yes,
Yeah,
great
very
cartoonist, and he and I held we were on a workshop for I think 1 or 2 days in India, and then he invited me back to his house for an interview the next day, and I went. And I was impressed with the artwork he had on his walls, because he had a lot of stuff he had picked up over the years, including a piece of work by James Thurber. And it was a piece of work when Thurber had lost his eyesight.
Oh.
As you know, Thurber was blind, or nearly blind at the end. And so the way Thurber drew was he would draw everything in continuous line.
Oh.
Because once he took the pencil off, he
didn't know where
he
he
didn't
stopped.
know where he was. And he then asked his wife to put in the eye and the mouth. Yeah. And so it was that struck me as interesting, that even though he was blind, he was still drawing whatever he could, as long as he didn't take that pen up. But, yeah, as I said, I've had a great life, because I have no regrets. I've met some fantastic people over the years, and I've learned a lot from them, and I've seen a lot, and that's been very important to me, because I came from a very small, worked-out coal mining village in western Pennsylvania, and in the town there were only, 150, 200, probably 150 people or so, and most of them very poverty-stricken because of the fact that the coal mines were no longer working. My relatives worked in the coal mines in other towns, or my father and his father and uncles, they all worked on a railroad. And so it was almost a fatalistic type of environment, meaning that you almost felt you were going to be there all your life. And people in that town, including relatives and my mother especially, encouraged me to go somewhere else, to go on. There's no one in that town, there was one person before me in the history of the town who had ever graduated from college. There are very few who graduated from high school. So I always felt I was very lucky, and I've never forgotten those roots because I learned a lot in that town. I learned how to survive in a very rough environment, but I also learned compassion and other things that the people, my neighbors and friends, had in that town. And that was very important. And I'm lucky in a sense that I think about my father, and when I think about my father, it brings a tear to my eye almost, in the sense that he started working on a railroad when he was 13 or 14 years old. So he never had a chance to go to high school, or didn't want to, or whatever. But when he retired, after 50 years on a railroad, he was to retire in September. He retired in January. And I said to him, because he always told me that I moved around too much. He always said, you move from one job to another, you have to stay in one job. And I said to him, you stayed on the same railroad, on the same 10 miles of railroad track for 50 years, and you quit 8 months before you're supposed to. And I said, I thought you liked the railroad. And he said, no, I never liked the railroad. He said, I want to be a mechanic. And when I think about that man, every morning getting up very early, going out there on days when it must have been 120 on those rails or more, and other times when it was below freezing.
Right.
And he did it every day of his life for 50 years. I'm lucky, because I'm doing something, I'm doing something I enjoy doing. And there's, and there are billions of people in the world who are like my father,
Right.
who are doing things that, just to survive. And so I always feel that I've been very, very lucky to have these opportunities, and I'm very grateful for all the people who made them possible for me.
Yeah, and obviously those people are grateful who got the opportunity of getting in contact with you,
Yeah.
and also getting a permission to visit your house, which is a beautiful museum of
right.
comic art. So those people are lucky too. That's what I feel.
Well, it's all a matter of sharing, and you take some, you give back some, and I think that's what it's all about.